All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. We still have people funneling in, but we're just going to go ahead. We have an introduction to do, and then we're going to move into the presentation. So what I'd like to start off is just by saying thank you again for everyone jumping on this Zoom meeting. Our plan is to hold a few of these webinars in the upcoming months. If there's any topics that anyone would like to for us and the city to dive into more, please go ahead and list that in the Q&A tab that's in this webinar. You can just hit the button and type it in there. And then today's webinar is on contractor licensing and registration, and we're going to highlight the changes to the city's licensing verification process that was due to the Florida Statute 163211. Once we move into the presentation, we will have Q&A following it. I do encourage everyone to use the Q&A box and type in any questions as we're going through the presentation. And then at the end, I will go ahead and address everybody's Q&A as time allows. And then following the presentation, I will also be the webinar session will be available to view on the CCI website, along with the Q&As that we collected during the meeting. But before we begin the presentation, I know we have a lot of participants that will be on the call today that are not really familiar with the CCIA, the Cape Coral Construction Industry Association. So I just wanted to give an introduction. First of all, I am Lynn Boldazar, the executive director of the CCCIA. And just to get on my soapbox real quick, the CCIA has been around for over 50 years, and we are a source of information to those in the construction industry and also the residents of the city of Cape Coral. We have over 380 members, and that includes 100 builders and over 120 subcontractors and suppliers, and the remainder are affiliates. What I will do too is after this meeting, I'll send out just some information on our membership, and then I would definitely love to meet with whoever's interested in the membership. We can meet for coffee, meet at your office, or we can also meet online as well. So without further ado, I will turn it over now to the city. And the city has a few staff members that will be introducing themselves, and then they will be moving into the presentation.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthew Grambo. I'm the Special Projects Coordinator in the City Manager's Office here at the City of Cape Coral. And I'm joined by Carrie Coletta, a supervisor in our Permitting Services Division, as well as Mark Folks, who is one of the city's consultants. He's from an organization known as Tenzinga. They've been working very closely with us over the past 9 to 10 months now on all things permitting, licensing, and code enforcement. And so they've been really instrumental, especially Mark, with assisting with some improvements that we've been implementing on our permitting process, licensing process, and code enforcement. So we're really thrilled to be here today on this very first CCCIA Cape Coral webinar. As Lynn had spoken about earlier in her statements, we're really one of our major goals this year is to really engage with the contractor community and to provide good educational opportunities, keep the conversation going, receive feedback from the contractors, and provide educational material and information on changes that are occurring here at City Hall that could affect the contractor community and enable everyone to have a better permitting and licensing experience. And so we put together a series of webinars and lunch and learns. As Lynn had spoken about, if you have any topics that you'd like us to present on in the future, please let her know. We can gather the appropriate staff members and kind of shape what these are going to look like in the future. This is the very first one. So please let her know if there's any topics that you'd be interested in learning a little bit more about. But for this very first webinar session, we decided to discuss a topic that is a pretty big one and something that's very timely. As Linda had spoken about earlier, there's been some major changes in state law governing how local permit issuing agencies can verify the qualifications of contractors doing certain types of permitted work throughout the state of Florida. They're really trying to kind of control things in Tallahassee and provide some consistency across municipal and county boundaries when it comes to the licensing process. And they're really trying to ensure that their licenses supersede some of the nuances and differences between different permit issuing and licensing bodies throughout the state of Florida. So when we had originally discussed having the first session in this webinar series, the effective date for all of the changes at the state level was actually scheduled to be July 1st of 2023. So we thought, we'll do one in June right before all the changes will be in effect. That has since been postponed 1 year based on some comments from permit issuing agencies throughout the state to July 1st, 2024. But we're still going to be presenting information on the changes today, the changes in legislation up in Tallahassee, the ordinance changes here at the city of Cape Coral, and what that means for contractors who do work in our area. So without further ado, we'll dive into the presentation. So the initial major change that the state of Florida passed back in early 2021 really is codified in this section of Florida Statutes, 163-211. It's titled "The Licensing of Occupations Preempted to the State." And paragraph 2 is the really critical section, and it states that licensing of occupations is expressly preempted to the state, and this section supersedes any local government requirement of occupations with a few exceptions. And so what this essentially means, diving into a little bit more detail, going to the House bill that shaped the changes in state law, is that the bill specifically prohibits local governments from requiring a license for a person whose job scope does not substantially correspond to that of a contractor or journeyman type licensed by the Construction Industry Licensing Board. And that's within the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, or DBPR. It also specifically precludes local governments, such as the city of Cape Coral, from requiring any type of license for a wide variety of types of work. And so overall, this means that the state is looking to rely on its own licenses that it issues rather than a multitude of local licenses, such as the licenses that the city of Cape Coral used to issue for specialty types of work and other types of job scopes. And it also is prohibiting local governments from requiring any license for a lot of types of work, some that the city requires a permit for and others that do not currently require a permit. So the effects of these major changes at the state level essentially are that the licensing of occupations is expressly preempted by the state of Florida, and any state license supersedes any type of local government licensing. Additionally, it prohibits us from requiring any license for a person whose job scope does not substantially correspond to the license of a contractor or journeyman type that's issued by the DBPR. And getting a bit into more of the details, the city of Cape Coral can no longer require any type of license for projects such as painting, flooring, cabinetry, certain types of limited interior remodeling, driveway or tennis court installations, plastering, stuccoing, caulking, canvas awning, and ornamental iron installation. We also may not increase or modify our licensing requirements after 1/1/21. And this is to ensure that the city doesn't try to do any dramatic modifications to its licensing in response to the legislation that passed in Tallahassee. So to comply with state law and to ensure that everything is kosher with the state and the DBPR, our city council back in February of this year passed Ordinance 1023. And this ordinance made a couple very large actions. One, and probably most importantly, it repealed our local licensing program. It also sunset our construction regulation board, and there were other provisions that ensured compliance with House Bill 735 and the codified version that was put into Florida statutes. If you look at the right side of the screen on this slide, you can see the ordinance really just completely wiped the slate clean with our local licensing program and pushed us to solely rely on the state of Florida's licenses that they issue to contractors to ensure compliance with state law. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Folks from Tinzinga, who will review what our revised licensing process looks like and how this affects contractors doing work in our area.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to join you today and kind of get some more information on the revised licensing process. Essentially what this means, and one of the big reasons that we passed the ordinance back in February, is that we didn't want to have contractors taking licensing exams and registering with the city or licensing with the city in between February and June, or the end of June, and then having that license automatically expire on July the 1st of 2023, because originally that was the date that everything took effect with the state statute, was July the 1st of 2023. So we made the decision to go ahead in February and do away, as Matt mentioned, with the licensing at the city level. So the city no longer issues licenses of any kind for contractors at all. We're no longer in the licensing business whatsoever. Essentially, that is kind of transforming to a registration within the customer self-service portal in InterGov. And so permitting staff members are now the members responsible for registering contractors and verifying in their state licenses are in the system. The city's customer self-service system will automatically verify the state license at the permit application process. And so anytime that you apply for a permit as a contractor, it will reach out to the state and verify that your license is current and valid and up to date at the state level anytime that you're applying for a permit. And so that kind of takes the whole process off of the city's hands as far as verifying those licenses, et cetera. On previously licensed contractors that were licensed as a specialty contractor that we know are going to have a license with the state to perform the scope of work that they are doing. We've kind of implemented a limited term, kind of a transition program to be able to transition the license from the city license to the state license for those work types that are required. And you'll see on the slide coming up, there are a lot of work classes that no longer require a license whatsoever. But those licenses, or those work classes that do require a license, you will be transitioned. And so I think we had a little bit fewer than 300 contractors that were due to expire on June the 30th of this year as a specialty contractor with the city. And those are now, that transition has been extended to 7/1 of 24. And so any contractor that was previously licensed as a specialty contractor can still apply for permits without issue until 7/1 of 2024. At that point, they will have to have the state license to be able to apply for permits from that date forward. The adjustments on these specialty licenses, you can tell, there are many over on the right-hand side of your screen. As you can see, we kind of created a crosswalk for these specialties. The column on the left is what the city used to have in place as specialty contractor licenses. So each one of those categories was something that we used to offer a license for contractors. On the right-hand side, you can see the specialty that is required at the state level, or that a license is no longer required for that particular license type. And so that crosswalk was meant to help the contracting community with understanding what license or what certification do I have to have from the state to be able to continue to pull permits within the city of Cape Coral, if any. And that is what that licensure crosswalk is for. As you can see, a license is no longer required for all of the categories that are on number 3 on the left-hand side of the slide. Any one of those, you can apply for a permit without having to have a license or proof of licensure whatsoever in each one of those categories. And so those are the permit types, work classes that no longer have to have a license at all. So how do these changes affect the contractors? Basically, the city is no longer in the licensing business, so all the specialty contractors that have to have the new state certification, which is, again, we mentioned is less than 300 contractors that will be affected by those changes. Those contractors with current state licenses just need to maintain their license. They don't need to do anything to re-register with the city or update their anything else, as long as their current state license is updated on the system and is there. All of those things will be the only thing they need to do. A specialty contractor that was previously licensed with the city that now has to have a state certification will have to have that state certification in place by 7/1/2024. At that point, you will no longer be able to apply for permits with the city of Cape Coral without that license for those types of work classes that are necessary. So Lynn mentioned that we're going to have a question and answer session. That pretty much concludes the presentation and how we're handling things within the city of Cape Coral. And we'll just take any questions that anyone may have at this time.
Yeah, and just to follow up with what Mark's portion of the presentation, our licensing crosswalk is available on our website, capecoral.gov. And it's also part of the PowerPoint presentation that you'll receive a copy of from Lynn. So all this information, as well as some additional details on how this is all going to work and it is working, is available online. But our entire goal here is to comply with state law and Cape Coral ordinances without impacting contractors' ability to do business. And so, there's a lot of requirements and things that we need to comply with, and things that we don't have a lot of control over. But we're trying to make this process as smooth and streamlined as possible for you. We believe that our system's capabilities to validate state licenses automatically at the point of permit application submission is going to be a benefit and make things a little bit easier rather than having to renew your city license every other year and submit all sorts of documentation to us on a regular basis. All you have to really focus on is maintaining that state license and you're good to go. It should make things a lot easier, a lot fewer hoops and fewer red tape sections to cut through to be able to just do your job here in the city. So we're hoping that we're able to work with the limited group of people that rely solely on a Cape Coral license rather than any type of state license to give them enough time to receive a state certification, state license. But we think that our approach is the least invasive way that we can ensure compliance with state law during these changes.
And then one additional thing, any of the contractors that are kind of moving from the city license to the state license in that transitioning realm do not have to update us with their insurance information or any of those requirements that were previously on the city licenses. That is no longer required for us to have. Basically, we're just giving you a grace period from now until July the 1st, 2024, without any further requirements on your license whatsoever. You just continue to apply for permits based off of your previous license.
Okay, I've got a few questions coming in here. And also I've got Michael who raised his hand. So I'm just going to start with the questions here. And then Michael, I will unmute you to be able to talk. So let's start out with Robert Rusnell. His question is, Lee County has announced a grandfather clause for this bill, allowing specialty licenses to renew locally. Why isn't Cape Coral being a part of Lee County not following suit? And then he follows it with, it's not as easy as just retaking the state level test for a 30-year local license holder who took the test back then.
Okay. Yeah, I can answer that question. When we did away with or chose the ordinance, it was in advance of Lee County doing the grandfather clause. And when the city passed the ordinance, we basically got out of the licensing business altogether. And so to allow a grandfather clause where you're renewing annually, we feel like it is not holding consistent with the law, because you're still offering some type of licensing through the city. And we just feel like that's not in the city's best interest to continue to license contractors. We completely got out of the licensing business. We are allowing the grace period with that. But additionally into that, the state has a grandfathering system in place for specialty contractors that are licensed at the local level that were registered with the state. The state has a grandfathering system to where they allow you to transition your license from a registered license to a certified license or to a certification within that. So you could check with DBPR on that, and you could easily kind of move into that realm of being able to grandfather over from the specialty license you have at the local level to the state certification.
Robert, you are able to unmute yourself. So I just want to ask if that answered your question, or if you had a follow-up to that, please let me know. Okay, no mic, I got you. All right, if you have a follow-up to that, let me know as well. Okay, great. You'll look into it. All right, great. Okay, now we'll move on to the next question here. Will state license holders still have to upload their licenses and insurance through the EnerGov portal? And she's referring to general contractors.
Yeah, all the state license holders, the only thing that you have to update here going forward is your state license. So your license number has to be valid in our system. If your state license number doesn't change and it remains the same, our system will actually reach out to DBPR and check anytime that you apply for a permit to make sure that it's actually valid, that it's current. But other than that, once it's in there the first time, you will not have to go in and re-update that information, and we are no longer requiring insurance information to be updated in the EnerGov portal.
Okay, and Nat, let me know if you have a follow-up question to that. And just so all the participants know, in the Q&A section, you are able to see all the questions that everyone is asking, and you are able to comment on the questions as well, just so you know. Okay, I'm gonna move to Michael. I've unmuted you, so you're able to, you had raised your hand, and I just want to allow you the time to speak.
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
Yep.
My name is Michael Palmieri. I am a licensed roofing contractor at the state of Florida. I was wondering if you could answer the gutters question. I've been getting different feedback in the Chamber of Commerce. I'm also in the CCCIA. Also I'm a board member of the Roofing Contractors Association. And we're all getting mixed signals on whether, so no other part of Lee County requests that we are licensed to do gutters. We are licensed to do roofing. They allow us to do anything under that, with considered gutters. I know Cape Coral did. Now that we go to the state licensing, there is no gutters licensing. There is only a steel structural license, but that is not what gutters are. So I was just wondering if you could answer the question for me, clear on what, that entails, because I was red tagged by a zone person a couple of months ago, and they were giving me kind of information that we'd have to have the specialty licensing through the state just to do gutters. So that is my question. Thank you.
So it is an aluminum structural license that would be needed for gutters.
Okay.
Yeah, it's under the state structure, under the state format, that is a specialty structure license. And basically that covers any time that you are fabricating or, manufacturing or doing anything like that on site, that structural specialty license is required. If you are installing prefabricated that you don't have to bend, you don't have to cut or do anything else like that, gutters, it doesn't fit into that specialty. But if you are doing anything on site that is bending, molding, fabricating, or in any way changing the shape of those aluminum that aluminum fabrication, then you are required to have that structural specialty license.
Okay, and the only issue is that's only Cape Coral. All over, everywhere else is the information we're getting is we don't need that specialty licensing. And the DBPR has told us for years that if you want to do anything under what you're licensed to do, obviously, I mean, and you figure we do standing seam. We protect people's whole house with standing seam and we do it on site, cut and measure and install. That would be kind of considered in that. So
Okay.
you're telling me specialty license only in Cape Coral?
But we will follow up and check with that, and we'll get that information back out to Lynn to make sure that that's consistent under the roofing license. So you're saying you're certified at the state level as a roofing?
Correct. Yes, I have the highest licensing that you can get. And in other words, not county to county, the whole state. But that's what they've always told us. If we want to do roofing, if we want to do gutters along with roofing, that's fine. And every other city and every other place in Lee County, Collier County, they're all accepting that. The only thing I've only seen this happen one time, and it was month or two ago. I got red tagged on a job and I had to use my GC license and do the gutters under that just to do it. But everyone's getting mixed signals. Everybody's just being told different things. So I appreciate the clarity, but I'm not going to say I agree with it because again, we're roofers. We're licensed to put metal on your house to not have your house leak. So to make us go get a specialty license just to do something that's fixed to the fascia board, really, it's a little bit out of it that, as far as how we've always done it.
Yeah, and we will check on that because the
Thank you.
Contractor Licensing Board is very, they allow, GCs, CVCs, those types of contractors to be able to do a lot of things that are, under other specialties within that, but we will check to make sure that roofing is allowed to do that.
Appreciate it.
Under that specialty as well.
I appreciate you. Thank you for the answer.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
If anyone is interested too in wanting to speak as opposed to using the Q&A, just go ahead and raise your hand and I will get to you. The next question we have here is from Fernando Gomez. Aluminum fences he's asking the question, is aluminum fences will be considered specialty licenses?
So fences no longer require a license of any type. So anyone can currently apply for any type of fence online through our EnerGov CSS portal.
Okay.
And that's for new fences, pool fences, any type of fence that you're doing.
Got you. Fernando says thank you. We have a question here. When will a sign business without a specialty license be able to pull permits for non-electrical signs?
So this is a good question and one that I can answer. So we are currently, because of the licensing changes at the state level, needing to break apart many of our existing permits in the EnerGov system. And one of the breakouts that we are currently working on and currently testing is splitting our fence permits, our sign permits to differentiate between electric and non-electric. So we will be working with the CCCIA to get the message out with when those broken out permit types are ready to go on EnerGov CSX. But that'll be very soon within the next couple of weeks. So definitely stay posted. We'll be posting those changes through probably press releases as well as communicating through the CCCIA when those changes are ready to go. But that is something that we are actively working on right now to get all those onto the system and ready for applications.
Okay, and did you? I didn't hear it. Did you mention a time frame? Sorry.
Within the next several weeks.
Okay. Okay. John Seekman is asking, marine work shows it will require a state marine specialty license. We perform marine work under a CBC license. Will that CBC license be acknowledged by EnerGov, being that it supersedes a specialty license?
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. We received acknowledgement from DBPR that CBCs are allowed to conduct marine work. And so, yes, EnerGov will allow a CBC license to conduct all level of marine work that gets applied for within the system.
Okay, next, okay, John says thank you. Next, Annette here is making a statement. In a meeting we had with DVPR, they explicitly told us that told us that they would not grandfather local specialty licenses to the state license. Has this changed?
What I had read on DVPR's website is that if you had a local specialty license and you were registered with the state, in other words, you were registered as a contractor, not certified, and you held a local specialty license, that they did have a grandfathering provision in place to get you to a certified status. If you were not registered as a contractor with DVPR and only had the local specialty license, I don't know that you would have the ability for that grandfathering provision.
Okay, can we get some clarity on that to know for sure?
I mean, that would be a check with DVPR,
yeah.
expressly with the state. And the difference between registered and certified is when you're a registered contractor with the state, that means you typically in the past, what registered means is you held a local license, you were registered with the state. In other words, you had a registration with the state showing that you were registered, but you had local licenses in those specialty areas to be able to function under those realms of work, that you were not certified at the state level. Certification at the state level means you are certified to perform all of that work. From what I understand, once all the certification provisions have taken effect, the registration process will go away only pretty much for anybody that was registered in municipalities that don't have the local licensing any longer. And so that would go away, but that's the difference between registered and certified. Registered means you're registered with the state as a contractor, but only allowed to provide work, do work in the municipalities or counties where you have that specialty license. Certified means that you can perform work across the state, anywhere across the state as a certified contractor through DVPR.
Gotcha. All right, next question. Has the governor's mandate expired regards to those who cannot certified roofers? Also, is there a is there a reciprocal relationship between Cape Coral for state roofing license? I don't know that I understand that question there.
So I can answer the first part. The executive order is set to expire June 15th. We will not know until the 14th or 15th whether he extends it or not. So until June 15th, that order is still ongoing, and not certified roofers can apply for re-roofs. Oh, it went away. What was the second part of that question?
Reciprocity.
Yeah.
There's roofers have always had to have the state license.
Correct.
And so
Yes.
there is, the city of Cape Coral recognizes the state certification for roofing licenses, as always. And the city has never had a specialty license for roofing contractors that we do at the local level. That's a state level license certification.
All right, next question. Or this is more of a statement. Gutters are not a structural item. They do not support weight. They are not engineered as a supported structural item.
Yeah, I think the question there comes in is why does it under aluminum non-structural, why does it say the specialty structural license? That literally comes from the document from the Contractor Licensing Board as what is required to have that state certification. And the aluminum non-structural is directly listed under the structural specialty license at the state level.
Gotcha. Just to add on to what Tim was saying, because I see another message in here from him. I don't know if you guys can see that there.
We will be checking into this inquiry on gutters, and we will provide you with more information as soon as we have clear.
Okay.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that we believe they probably extended the full implementation of these changes until next July is, we've heard a lot of complaints and a lot of concerns and confusion coming from contractors regarding these state changes. And so I think that there's probably going to be some additional changes over the next year with the state of Florida and how they're going to be going about implementing the changes in House Bill 735 and the statutory changes that are associated with that.
My apologies. It is July 15th.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't mean to scare you. June 21st today.
All right, and I've got Annette here that has a question, and she has raised her hand.
Well, I actually wanted to just say in the bill that just, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, in the bill that just got passed this year, that structural aluminum specialty license is one of the ones that DBPR is tasked to create as a specialty contractor category on the state level.
Yeah, and there are several that they have basically tasked the Construction Licensing Board to look at to see if it's still needed as a certification or license at the state level or not. And, I would weigh in your all's thoughts with that. And just like the aluminum thing, mentioning that gutters do not support any weight, why does it have to have the structural specialty? I would weigh in with your legislators. I would weigh in with the Construction Licensing Board and give them your input on that, because that's what they're going to be using to make determinations on those particular work classes as they move forward. And that's what they have been tasked with per that Senate bill that passed, or per the bill that passed this year that extended the date and basically tasked the Construction Licensing Board with looking almost wholesale at all the licenses, especially specialty licenses that are required and what should be required and what's not.
All right, do we have any more questions? And again, if you were looking to speak instead of using the Q&A, you're more than welcome to raise your hand as well. Robert Rusnell stated we will reevaluate if when the bill is amended. Question mark, or is this a final determination to terminate the licensing department?
Yeah, we have already made the determination that the city will no longer license whatsoever, and we are already out of the licensing business. So it doesn't matter what the state decides with the Contractor Licensing Board on those particular specialties. The city made the decision the 1st of February before this bill was ever passed that we were getting out of the licensing business, and that decision is pretty much final.
All right, everyone. Any last questions, statements, comments?
Yeah, if you have any follow-ups, feel free to send them to Lynn. She'll make sure that they get to our desks. So this is, we're hoping this is going to be an ongoing conversation. This is the first of a series of these types of webinars. So again, if there's any specific topics that you'd like us to dive into during future events, if you have any questions on this topic or on future topics, feel free to send them her way. And I meet with her every other week, and she communicates questions and issues and topics, with staff here at the city. So please feel free to go ahead and do that, and you can shape what these will look like in the future, and other sources of information that we may be able to put together for y'all.
Yeah, and I would also say that whatever your all's thoughts are on, with this new bill passing this year that extends that date and has the construction licensing board reviewing all those specialty types, if you've got any feedback into that, I would get that to Lynn and let the CCCIA go as a unified voice to their legislators and to the construction licensing board to implement some of those, or try to get your input on some of those changes that you want to see. Because on the opposite side of the aluminum thing, we've also had contractors that say that they can't believe that there's no longer a license required for some work classes that they think they ought to be required for at the state level. And so whether you think that they shouldn't be, or whether you think there's classes that should be, I would contact Lynn about going with unified voice to the state and to the construction licensing board with your thoughts with those.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. But again, this session will be posted on our website and will be available with these questions and answers that we collected here. If you have, again, anything to follow up with on this, on the things that we talked about, please shoot me an email. And again, the CCIA is here to work on your behalf. So if there's anything that we can help with, not just with licensing and the different rules and regulations, but also with your business itself, please shoot me an email or give me a call, and we'll see what we can do to get you taken care of. But thank you to the city for having everyone on hand to provide the answers for these questions here. And we look forward to doing another one here in the near future.
Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a really great rest of the week. Hey, Lynn, can you hear us?
Yes.
Can you see your face on the screen?
I see mine. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, because it says screen share. Can you see that?
You guys?
Yeah. Well, can you see the PowerPoint?
Oh, no. It might be because only I can share it. I don't know. I know you should be able to, because
Oh, here we go.
I put you as a panelist. I just went ahead and changed this into a webinar, so it's a little bit.
Yeah. Can you see that now?
Yeah, now it's sharing. Yep.
Okay, that sounds good. We're gonna just probably just do audio from our end because we're in a big conference room and you can barely see us anyway.
Yeah.
Can you hear us okay though?
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. And I sent you the slides.